All right, this is Gary Tomas Panell, and we're ready to learn Spanish. This is your free Spanish class, and I hope you enjoyed the one that we had yesterday, or day before yesterday, on Monday. We'll try to do this Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, at least, and then we had English on Tuesday, English on Thursday. But I encourage you to go through the things that we did in the first lesson. You can find this on Facebook, or you can go to Bible-Christian.org and look it up in the search engine and the English classes, and you'll be able to find it there. So let me get you started right away, and we want to just remind you to, last time we had the alphabet, and you have that, so you can just look at that again. Now today we're going to learn some things, and so it should greet you in Spanish as well, so you get used to it. This is buenas noches, okay? And anytime after 6 o'clock in the evening is noches, and before that is, for example, right here, everyday conversation, greetings, polite greetings. Oops, I'll get here where you can see me. Polite greetings, okay? And so we'll start with these. Right here we have buenos dias. Let's all say that together. Buenos dias, okay? Buenos dias means good morning, all right? So you would greet somebody like that. And then we have buenas tardes. Now notice, I say fíjense, that means look at it very carefully in Spanish, because that has an A instead of a O. So now I'm teaching you from English speakers learning Spanish probably, or other languages, and you want to learn Spanish. So I'm using the alphabet in English right now, but if I could say it in Spanish. We have buenos with a O aquí, pero A in buenas. So fíjense means look at it carefully. Here you go. Buenas tardes. Now, that would be in the afternoon. Any time after 12 would be buenas tardes. You could remember it this way, and I like to think of ways to remember it, because I know how I was, and you had to remember so many things, but you can if you associate them with something. And I think of it as after, for example, you're coming to school, and when you were going to school, they used to do this. If you were late, you would say, "You're tardy." That means that they had come late. Well, tardes, buenas tardes would be that it's a little bit later in the day. So now you've got buenos dias with the O, remember? So you're going there, and then dias, of course, means day, and buenos means good day. So they put that in at the beginning. Buenas tardes, good, actually good afternoons, okay? And buenas noches, well, that would be good evening. So you could use that after 6 o'clock. Now, so here we go with the greetings. And this is, we're talking about greetings, polite greetings right now. And so we say, ¿Cómo está usted? ¿Cómo está usted? Now that's not too hard. You can get that. Let's say it again. ¿Cómo está usted? Now, notice here that there's an accent. When it's a question, there is also a question mark at the beginning, if it's a question word, or if it's a question sentence. I really like that, because this way you know if the sentence is going to be a question. Reading in English, you're reading along, you don't know if it's going to be a question or not sometimes. Yeah, a lot of times we know because of words that are there. But this especially helps us. ¿Cómo está usted? Now, you notice also there is an accent, they call this an accent mark, over the ah. And we'll try to use the Spanish as much as possible so you can get used to and remember your alphabet. A, B, C, F, accepted, and so on. So hopefully you're practicing those, because we really don't have a chance to keep going over them, but you have the lesson from before, lesson 1, if you need to go back to that, and I'll number the lessons so you can remember. But here we go. Let's do this again. Como means how. You probably guessed that. Well, over here it says, how are you in English? Como está, all right? That would be usted. There, that would mean you, but formal. Okay, so if you don't know the person, and you notice there's still a question mark at the end, question mark upside down, question mark at the beginning. Takes a little practice to do that, but then at the end also. So como está usted? How are you? Okay, how are you? That's what we're saying. And then the esto are the familiar greetings. In other words, greetings that we would normally say to our friends and people we know. And when it's formal or polite greetings, they call it here, then that is because we have somebody that we don't know. Maybe it could be even a school teacher showing respect, police officer, but basically somebody you don't know, and usually not children. We'll show you the use of familiar for children. So you could say, now here's something, hola. When I was in Panama, they'd say, hola, Coca-Cola. And that's the way you can remember it, I suppose. They had never heard hola, even though they spoke 3 different languages, English, Spanish, and I think it was the Kuna language. But anyway, the Sandblast Islands. But here you say, hola, Coca-Cola. Hola, just say hola. That means hi. And then Coca-Cola is just remembered. So I'll tell you lots of things to help you remember it, okay? And then it says, ¿Cómo estás? Okay, now that's different because it ends in a S. Up here you notice there's no S. But again, they have to accent the A. So acento sobre la A. Okay, ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás? Okay, see the difference? ¿Cómo está usted? Formal. But when you're talking to people you know, and children and so on, ¿Cómo estás? All right. If you went up to a little child and said, ¿Cómo está usted? They probably wouldn't understand what you're saying. You say, ¿Cómo estás? Okay, if they speak Spanish. Then, so how are you? And then the response would be, bien, gracias. Bien, gracias. Now, they give a bunch of other... I was thinking about whether or not I should put these on. They said CSC and muy mal and so on. But you know, in our culture, in American culture, and probably in many places today, you just say muy bien, gracias, or gracias, bien, gracias. You know, that type of thing. So response can be bien. That means good. And gracias. They're just greeting you. They don't want your family history or your medical history. They just want to know that that they're being friendly to you and you're being friendly back. So they'll say, ¿Cómo estás? And you'll respond by saying, bien, gracias. Okay, there you go. Now, that means fine, thank you. All right. Now, and we don't have a whole lot of time. We have a little bit more time left. And I want us to go over the first 10 numbers. And I've tried to keep this basic and simple. So if you're starting out and learning Spanish, you'll say, boy, I can do this. And that's what I want you to say. You know what? It just takes time and practice. But if you really, it's a decision you have to make. If you decide, yes, I want to learn Spanish, and you really mean it, then you know what? You can find time to do what you really want to do. If you really want to learn Spanish, then you'll find time to learn it. Now, I was older when I learned Spanish, and so I still have an accent, a strong accent from English when I'm speaking Spanish, and it's good for you to listen to Spanish speakers on the radio. So tune your Radio Cadena in our area and the other areas. They have Spanish stations. You just tune around till you find it. You can get on television programs that are in Spanish, the news and so on. The news is pretty fast in Spanish. But things like that, movies. You could actually have a movie in English and put the footnotes to begin with, the captions in Spanish. Or after a while, if you get real brave, you can put it on in Spanish. Now, I know it's hard for the families because everyone's wanting to watch something in their language, and here you're trying to watch it in Spanish. So you might want to do that at your time, or get permission from the others on the remote. You know, whoever has the remote has the control. So here we go. We're going to go over numbers right now, just 1 through 10. Now, when I was living in Moses Lake, my mom, she taught me the numbers 1 through 10 in Spanish, and I was so glad she did. We heard Spanish quite often around the house and where we worked and so on. But here we go. Let's go and let's use the numbers as we go down. So, numero uno. Uno is 1. Uno. Okay, there's a game even. Uno. You remember that way. Dos. There we go. Everybody say it with me, please. It won't help unless you repeat it. The people in my classes through the years that repeated it, they learned it. The people that just sat there and listened, no. But I would say this, that to begin with, when you're learning a language, there's a lot of just listening. If you know little babies and children, babies don't start talking right away. They're listening all the time, though. You know why? They're learning things, even though they're not speaking yet. So you may want to listen some, of course, listen a lot, but you want to start trying to say it. As adults, we can actually say it. Here we go. So, uno, dos, conmigo, that means with me. Tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, ocho, nueve, diez. Now, you notice that the numbers are written just like we write like English people write their numbers. Now, I've thought about that before. In other countries, they use even other numbers, but we have a lot in common between Spanish and English. That's why I'm teaching Spanish, but on hopefully Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but on and we haven't decided on time yet, but you should find it somewhere in those days. If you're looking for the Spanish lessons, you can go back and look in Facebook or Bible-Christian.org. But on Tuesday and Thursday, we'll be teaching English for Spanish speakers to learn English. And for you that want to speak Spanish, very important. So there is the many similarities in Spanish and English. There's actually 16,000 words, common words that we use, and many, many more, but the common words that we use, that Spanish speakers use, and that we know, radio, and so on and on it goes. Many names and so on that are similar between Spanish and English that you'll find out that you know. I only speak Spanish and English basically, but I've looked into other languages, and basically they use a lot of, there are words that are similar in Spanish and English, okay? So that helps, all right, as we go along. So let's try this again. Everybody with me. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, ocho, nueve, diez. Good. Now let's do it a little bit faster. And hopefully you go around the house just saying this and teaching everyone else. And don't be bashful. That's the hardest thing, especially for adults, is to because you feel almost embarrassed. You're like you're becoming a child again. You have to go back like children were, and you'll want to be like them, which they're so humble and a lot of times, and they want to learn. Okay, here we go. Let's do it again. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, ocho, nueve, diez. Now, if you can get those first 10, and then we'll go on to the others. The others are fairly easy, and I'll explain that there's a lot of repetition and that sort of thing. But I don't want to give you too much the second lesson. We just have a few more minutes that we'd like to try to keep these lessons 30 minutes or under, okay? In Spanish, 30 minutos or menos, okay? Now let's go back and let's do some more speaking in Spanish, And let's use some of the things that we've learned here. You could actually practice these on different people. I could ask you right now, I could say to you, for example, well, for me right now, it's afternoon, so I could say, Buenas tardes. Okay, you could repeat that back to me. Now see, a lot of things that when we're doing greetings, you're just repeating what the other person said. They said Buenas tardes. You could say Buenas tardes. Okay, then you could also, it's let's say all of these so we know what we're supposed to say in the morning. In the morning, Buenos dias. Remember the O there. Buenos dias. Okay, Buenas tardes. And that's the afternoon. That's a little bit later, right? Buenas noches, after 6 o'clock in the evening. And then, okay, so now let's go on to ¿Cómo está usted? That's a formal. ¿Cómo está usted? Okay, if like your teacher or your, like we said, police officer or somebody like that, somebody you're showing respect to, and then that usted is there. Usted is abbreviated. It's actually USTED, but it's abbreviated here, which usually is abbreviated with a period at the end. So usted, okay? Now, if we go to the familiar greetings, we'll go down here, and how do you say hi in Spanish? Hola. Hola, let's all practice it. Hola, Coca-Cola. Oh, no, not the Coca-Cola. That's just to help you remember how to say it. Hola. Okay, that means hi. Okay, it's just a greeting. And then, remember, not everybody around the world that speaks Spanish, most of them would know that probably, but there's some places they use other greetings too, but that's a very common one I want you to learn. Next, ¿Cómo estás? Now that's where you're asking somebody, how are they doing? ¿Cómo estás? All right, and you're just being friendly. ¿Cómo estás? And that's usually what we say. Okay, and then they could say, muy bien, gracias. See, and or just bien, gracias, bien, gracias. All right, and I've heard, and sometimes I'll use the greeting too, instead of just saying buenos dias or buenas tardes, buenas noches. Sometimes people just say buenos. It's just kind of a greeting. All right, so you have that. Now let's go over the numbers again. Okay, here we go. Everybody with me? Come on, you have to say it out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now just see how easy that is. And I bet you some of you have heard these words different places, and now you know what they mean. And we'll be using more and more Spanish as we go along. Okay, and I'll just say a little bit in Spanish so you can see what it's like. Vamos a usar más español en el futuro. Okay, we're going to use more Spanish in the future because you're learning more Spanish and you'll be able to use it. And we can use the numbers, and we'll give you more numbers as we go along, of course, and you'll be able to count the numbers up to 1,000 or more. Okay, and then also the greetings and different vocabulary words. And as we go along, I'll tell you places you can go to. You can get online and get some other programs that are teaching Spanish. I would buy, even Spanish, if you read the Bible, get that in Spanish. Other things, get some Spanish songs and so on. But just immerse yourself in the language. You know what? It's going to pay off. I'm so glad that very early on in my life I started learning Spanish, and I have not regretted it, and there's many, many ways you can use it, and you'll see that. So with that, we're going to sign off and say hasta, not mañana. Well, you can say hasta mañana, that means tomorrow, and we didn't learn that yet, but hasta mañana, but I'm going to say hasta luego, because it will be Friday before we have the Spanish lesson again. Free Spanish lesson. How can you lose with this? All right, please share this with other people, and Dios lo bendiga. That means God bless you.